Yeah, 4 o'clock, hitting live. There we go. So we are live now, technically.
Oh, cool.
Over on the YouTubes, dude. How is life treating you, man?
It's been really good. It really has. I'm really just kind of enjoying life, creating content when I can. Just living.
So obviously, like one of the things that I'm always just generally curious about that we talked about before in the past was like how you obviously explore different platforms, always trying to get a vibe of what's going on. Clearly, we've seen some changes announced from Twitch. Do you feel like you can weigh in on that without getting in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's wild. Like first and foremost, Twitch takes more money than any other platform, and I think that's a detriment to its future. Right? Like a lot of people are worried what's going to happen with Twitch. Is Amazon preparing to sell it? What's going on? And I mean, but from a live streaming discoverability standpoint, Twitch is still king.
Yeah.
It is so hard to get discovered as a live streamer if you don't already have an audience on YouTube. And I mean, I was over on YouTube for like 6-7 months, and I was able to grow from 5 subs to 500, and that was a pretty big jump. But it was also because of the VOD content I was putting out. Like I was putting in time to put in guides for Destiny and for Final Fantasy 14. But I mean, I think in the wars, I think YouTube's going to win in the end. I think that, if YouTube overhauls live streaming, everyone thinks they're going to, then we may have a better competition on our hands.
What does YouTube do then? Like from your perspective, because I've always said this is like, I think Twitch has the tools, but YouTube has the potential. Like YouTube has I think YouTube's won the war and hasn't even yet begun to fight. What does YouTube do? Like, what's the roadmap that you all of a sudden you're like, why are you streaming on Twitch? Like, what does that look like for you?
I mean, first and foremost, I think an overhaul of discoverability when it comes to live streaming, making live a more user-friendly experience, to where like you're separated from the VOD portion of YouTube, and it's its own little thing, and they experimented with that in the past, but it didn't look like they put a ton of money into it. So I think YouTube needs to enhance the user experience for live streaming, whether that's gaming or IRL content.
I would just call it live.youtube.com. Like they had gaming.youtube.com. Like let it be its thing, and you can it's linked, but at the same time a little bit like different. They need the ability in my mind to be able to turn out new features and tools without having to worry about impacting all of YouTube. It feels like we're still waiting this year. We just got gifted memberships, right? But we're still like, okay, well, meanwhile, Twitch continues, I feel like, to try things and put out things. And they just overhauled the boost train, the hype train system. It just feels like things are happening over there faster. But I cut you off. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's the user experience for YouTube, but also, I mean, a way to monetize for smaller creators, right? Like right now, the only thing you can do is wait till you hit 1,000 subs, hit 5,000 watch hours, and pray that they deem you worthy of making money. And I think that's a detriment to it too, right? Like the amount of time you have to put in to hit those numbers if you're not established anywhere, is pretty ridiculous. Yeah. Whereas on Twitch, I can go live for a month and I'm most likely going to get a sub button. Right? So I think access to monetization would be really important for YouTube to grow in the live streaming space.
What about the exclusivity changes that they've just implemented? Namely that you can co-stream on like non-YouTube and Facebook platforms, but everywhere else it's like TikTok and Instagram. Is that a good thing in your mind, or do you think that exclusivity with Twitch eventually becomes a thing of the past?
I think exclusivity has to become a thing of the past, regardless. I think one, right now, if you're a content creator and you're not putting your content on TikTok, you're doing yourself a detriment, because TikTok is easily the fastest growing platform. I've seen people go from 5 concurrent viewers on Twitch to over 150 due to their consistent and good content on TikTok. So being able to do that as well as IG live at the same time, I mean, I think it's brilliant. I would like to see the exclusivity go away as a whole, because there are times, you know, where I'm streaming on Twitch, but I know the content that I'm putting out would be better on YouTube, and I would like to stream it on that platform. You know?
Yeah. Have you been following Ninja's move to streaming everywhere?
Yeah, it's really weird.
Well, it's weird, but it's like his numbers on Twitch are way up. And when you do the math based off of what they said of what it costs for somebody like Work the Game right now, like in the terms of the numbers, we have like generally 180, 80 to 100, which puts us right in the ballpark of their mathematics, but costing them $1,000 a month. But then when you go and extrapolate that mathematics over to Ninja, who's now not getting subs, is not getting the ads and all that, but still streaming to 11,000, 13,000. I've seen it up to 16,000 people just on Twitch. I was like, he's spending millions of dollars of Twitch's money, and they're going to have to make a decision. And what I think it shows, just like you said with TikTok, what we've seen actually has worked a game with Chris and I. Whenever one of us was live on one platform and one on the other, like our Twitch numbers go way up. We get a 30% boost by being in other places. And I think essentially what ultimately I hope it boils down to is just like, make it about the platform, make it about the viewing experience. And if Twitch has the best viewing experience, cool, go watch as a viewer wherever you feel most comfortable, wherever you enjoy consuming the content, as opposed to like, all right, guys, I'm in this exclusivity deal over here on chat, on Twitch. And it does, like, because I see a lot of people rush to that sub button for affiliate, and it ends up just killing their momentum. Where before that, they're like, yeah, I'm everywhere. And then it's like, oh, I'm getting momentum. And then it's like you shoot yourself in the foot because you're not established.
Yeah, I think becoming an affiliate as a growing streamer is probably the worst move you can make, because you're now tethered to a platform. And that's not what you want to do. You want to be everywhere. And like YouTube, Ninja's making money off of YouTube. He's got his join button, right? He's getting his ad revenue. He's still putting out a ton of content in terms of shorts and short form videos, and is raking in the view count. So it's working.
Yeah. Well, that relevancy, that mind share, the fact that when you go online and, he's everywhere, that he can do it because he's clearly a multimillionaire, and he's not losing out on that. So it's not something that everybody has the ability to do, but it does, in my mind, what I always kind of call it is, the kingmaker system, that it's the 1% of the 1%, or the people who are really dominating the space, and they have the ability to continue to dominate the space. So it becomes a very, like, in a way, it's an unfair advantage that he has the unique ability to play. That's why my theory is that ultimately this is going to end up in the courts some way, somehow, whether it's his team suing Twitch for impact of revenue, or Twitch going and making a change because they're just bleeding out on just his stream alone because of his size.
Well, I don't know. Twitch is still making ad revenue off of his stream, right? They're still selling ads. He's just not getting a cut of it.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if it ends up being like, there turns out that a lot of people either want to support and they're just losing that revenue, or his team can sit down and say, listen, like, this deal, like, we're generating money for Twitch, right? Then it's like, we've earned a share of that. I don't know. Like, who knows at the end of the day? I think because that, Twitch is Amazon based in California, I think if it does go to the courts, like California state law says, no, you can't do that, Twitch. That's, you can't have these unless you're going to actively give money. That's back to the affiliate deal. People are like, oh, Twitch is paying you for that exclusivity. It's like, no. The people who support you are actually paying for that. And Twitch is taking half of that. Twitch isn't giving you anything. They're not giving you money. But that's just my annoyance. Free Paper says, wonder how long these guys talk, 1 to 2 hours. Generally speaking, these shows go about an hour. Just heads up, Free Paper, just they should be more conversational in nature, but ultimately, I know my wife likes me to help with the kids, and the kids get a little bit nuts after 5 o'clock Central. So, she'll be texting multiple times if we start going, an hour and a half, which then you'll see this. It's like, all right, I'm remembering, but no, she should be organic. Are you ready to get it started, dude?
Yeah, let's rock and roll, man.
All right, here we go, guys. All right. Hello and welcome to the Epic Loot Radio podcast. My name is Brian, and joining me today is NelStar, a content creator, Destiny player, a Final Fantasy 14 veteran as well. We've got actually so much in common. Ginger's to a fault. His beard is obviously better and more epic than mine. So if you're here watching the live stream and the video, welcome in. You can clearly see just how epic this guy's beard is and how jealous it makes me. But we had to get him on the show. We haven't had NelStar on in a while. And so you tweeted out a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, let's get you on the schedule about wanting to talk about Destiny. And then just like a couple days ago, obviously, World of Warcraft Classic with the Wrath of the Lich King launched, and that's obviously consumed your time. So you're a gamer to a fault. So for those of you who have never seen your content, don't know who you are, I've got all NelStar's links in the description of this video. His YouTube channel is tagged because we can now do that on YouTube, and I like that. But also his Twitter and his Twitch. Go give him a follow. I always really enjoy being able to hang out in streams. I have not been able to in a while. But now, why don't you take a couple minutes and introduce yourself for what you got created and what got you so hooked to both Destiny and World of Warcraft, plus any other games you're looking forward to here in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't stream like I used to. I've fully committed to having a social life these days.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. So I stream like once a week. I play Destiny almost exclusively on stream. And just try to do as much PvE helps as possible. So a lot of times it's helping people through their first raid if I can. But also trying to do a lot of challenges and solo content and seeing what I can push my skills to. But I've been doing this for like 7 years now. Holy moly. I did it full time for a total of like 1 year. And that was 6 years ago. And honestly, have been playing WoW and Destiny the entire time I've been doing this. I had short stints in ESO and Final Fantasy 14 and Heroes of the Storm. Took a break from all kinds of MMOs to play a MOBA. I don't even know what happened there. But I started streaming with WoW back then. That's the only game I played whenever I started. And then I got hooked with Destiny. Destiny is just a unique experience to me because it's like almost like an MMO light. So I play a lot of Destiny because I can log in for 2 hours, get a ton of weeklies done, and then get off and go do whatever I'm trying to do, which half the time lately, if I'm not going out, has been laying on my couch watching NCIS. But I mean, it's just what I love. My community loves it. All my best friends. I've actually everyone I consider a best friend now I met through Destiny. And I think that's what is cool about it to me. So yeah.
Easy question: Titan, Hunter, or Warlock? What's the best class?
Hunter.
I always seem to talk to hunters out there in the world. Like that's the one class that I'm always like, yeah, I'll check it out, and then never do. So it's like I
like flipping around and dodging and throwing knives and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, hunters, when they do that, I'm always like, damn it, I should play a hunter. They have so much on me in PvP. That's a floaty make more warlock. That's just, I get the bombs, the Nova bombs, which is wonderful. Now, obviously, Destiny has gone over a lot of revisions, and we just saw more details about Lightfall. We know we're going into the final shape, and then essentially what happens after that is all theoretically up in the air. Let's talk about that theoretical future, though. Just kind of sit here to maybe make a clip that we could call back to years later and say, hey, Nell was right. He called it right. What happens after the final shape for you?
Oh, my God. I feel like it could be a couple of things. I feel like it might mimic what happened with WoW Cataclysm, where we almost have a full-on reset of the universe and the world that we're in. Reset of your guardian, reset of the world, reset of how the game plays, right? Because that's what we got with Cataclysm. It was this ultimate moment of we're changing the world, we're changing how you play, we're altering the combat systems, we're doing all this jazz, and I could see that happening with Destiny. At the same time, I think it could just be an engine overhaul, and the battle between light and dark is officially over, and the two have merged into one, and now we're just fighting for peace in the galaxy, right? So I think it could be this, we move beyond solar system, and we start really taking on these other threats across the galaxy. And then there's the ever-present possibility that it shuts down and we get Destiny 3. So I don't know. I think the second one's the most likely to happen because it is the end of the light and the dark saga. And there's other threats that are out there that aren't light or darkness. And I think in this battle, I think Soul is going to be destroyed. And that we're going to have to go out beyond the reaches of our solar system.
That'd be really cool. And especially if you're right. Cause like, honestly, I'm all on board for the Destiny 3 view in that regards, because then you can kind of have these chapters. You can still go play Destiny with all of its content. Destiny 2 is a weird bag though, because even with Lightfall and even with the final shape, the question ends up being is like, do we ever see them bring back Forsaken? Do we ever see them bring back the Red War as it's vaulted? Or like, what did they do with that? Because if they do chapter it off and then it becomes I almost said Stormblood, Shadowkeep all the way through the final shape, then there's kind of this lost chapter that nobody can go out and play. How do you feel about the vaulting system now with the changes they announced with Lightfall?
Listen, so first and foremost, I fully understand why vaulting happened. Destiny 2 was built on a platform that could run on like 2 generations ago consoles, Xbox 360 and Xbox One and PS4, right? Did it? No, it was on 360 and 3, wasn't it?
Yeah. Destiny 1 was Destiny 2 on 360?
I think it might have started there. Anywho, it was built on an older engine that couldn't handle the amount of content they were going to put into this game. So I understand it. Now, obviously, with them saying that there's no more vaulting, that means that they've improved their system and their engine enough to where this is no longer a limitation. Personally, I don't like the vaulting system. I want to go back and play the Red War. It's like one of the greatest memories I have in playing video games. I loved every second of that story. And the story like of fighting to get our light back and piecing the Traveler back together, I think is so awesome and unique of a story. But I'm not mad about it, I'm not upset that that's not there, because I still do have my memories and I still do have all of the cool triumphs and everything that came with it and all the weapons, right? Like we had weapons on weapons on weapons. And so if they weren't sunset, but I get it. I want to play that stuff again, but I'm not mad that it's gone.
Yeah. So on that note, though, because like one of the things you mentioned about them, being labeled an MMO light, the devs themselves have said this is an MMO. My question to you is, what is an MMO?
Oh, dude, oh my God. It's the ever-present question. What is an MMO?
Yeah.
It varies from person to person, and I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for this. It is any game with a massive population that is always online in a social aspect. I think those are the 3 things that I consider to be an MMO. I don't need in-game trading. I don't need these shared spaces like we see in traditional MMOs. I don't need an LFG system. I just think it needs to be a massive multiplayer online game. And Destiny is that. It like at its core, it is that. It had some things that may draw away from it, like the shared spaces, like the tower or whatever location you're in. But at the end of the day, it's just, I think it's a massive online game that you play with people and has a social aspect.
So then on that actual note in that regards, have you ever heard of the ship of Theseus kind of problem with replacing parts? Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. So essentially this is where the question is going to go, is that the ship of Theseus, this is also presented as a part of like WandaVision, etc. But it's that like, if you continue to replace parts like they do in Destiny, how much of it essentially is still the original, vision of that, and how much of it has been completely overhauled so that it maybe just looks like Destiny. What would be your take on essentially as they continue to overhaul the game, with the ship of Theseus model? Do you have any insight as to that kind of, philosophical question?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the core of what an MMO is that no matter what you do, eventually you're going to get away from the original core of the game. WoW's done it. 14 has done it. ESO has done it. Everyone has made fundamental changes to what they are as a game, to where if you look at them now compared to where they were, sure, the art style's the same. The kind of the boss fights are the same. That's really the only thing that's been consistent. I'm all for the fact that the weapons system and the stat system in Destiny are not what we had at launch.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a fan of the double primary being forced on me and a sniper or shotgun being my heavy. I'm not a fan of that. Wasn't a fan of the way that they did the stat system with only 3. Now we have 6, and I love it. But yeah, I mean, It's hard to say though. Like, is it still Destiny with all the changes that have been made? Is it still WoW with all the changes that have been made? Right? Like, we're talking about Wrath Classic. Like, go and play Wrath right now, and then go play retail. It's not the same game at all. So I think piece by piece, you have to continually mold an MMO into what the general public wants, because you not only have to keep the people that are playing happy, but you also have to continually bring in new faces to keep that revenue going up. But two, you got to make everybody that's playing the game happy. So you can't do fundamental changes overnight. It's got to be a gradual change. Listen to the community, take the feedback, see what's feasible, replace piece by piece. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think the core of Destiny's still there, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you're in space, you're shooting, and you're looting.
Yeah, the model in my mind that I've kind of I settled in on, especially with that problem, is that a core component of MMO is that it will be replaced, is that it's evolving, and essentially to kind of sit here and say like this is the game set in stone is not what then defines that. Like, there are games like that exist to this day, and if that's the experience you want, go play those. But if you're stepping into an online game, you could even not have to use the moniker MMO, but you could use any kind of like a, persistent online world or shared world shooter, or etc. Like, even to the degree that DLC has the ability to impact a core game. Hey, we use this opportunity to rebalance some things that the games are about their evolution. And ideally, I think you hit it right on the head with essentially listening and having that communication and that relationship with your community. You end up then having a stronger ship of Theseus volume of things that are changing. And so you end up having a better product and better experience rather than a worse one. But Destiny isn't without its controversy. Over the course of just this year alone, we've seen like many gamers getting upset over various changes and things like that, and attacking the developers. As a developer yourself, as somebody who's worked in this space, like, what is the right response? Like, how do you manage that relationship in a healthy way or is it just like an impossibility with the age of communication and the ability to be ambiguous or anonymous in that regards? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's when you work in something like community management or comms, being anonymous and still being able to do your job correctly is impossible. It is not possible. Sure, there are links we could go to not use personal accounts to get information out there and things like that, but that I think takes away from what we're trying to do and the communication we're trying to put out there. And I think Bungie has handled this perfectly. Like, first and foremost, if you attack our devs, we're going to pull back the communication. So comms have slowed. The community managers aren't posting as much as they used to. Information is coming more at a drip than it used to come, as like coming through a water hose. And that's kind of the steps you have to take. Like, if your employees are receiving legitimate death threats and are being doxxed, you have to take their safety as a priority. And doing so means scaling everything back, pulling it back, and not setting them up for this. That's why, like, over the past year, I've transitioned my socials from about work to more about what I am as a person, who Nell is, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why there's less about what I'm working on and a ton more about whether I'm watching football, wrestling, playing Destiny, playing Wrath. Like, it has transitioned into a stream of consciousness for me. And that's just kind of the product of what you're talking about: harassment, doxing, threats, abuse, insults being hurled. Like, it doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, this is a video game. Why are we yelling at people on the internet? Why are we threatening them? It doesn't make any sense to me. I actually was about to tweet it before we went live. It was like, a lot of the gaming community would do well to learn what constructive criticism is.
Yeah.
Because there is a big difference between what we've seen over the past couple years in terms of, what's coming across Twitter towards devs and community managers and literally anyone that's a dev and on social media, and the constructive criticism that we used to see come out of press, right? Because 15 years ago, all we had was press speaking for us. I mean, we had forums that we were on, and we could communicate that way, but press was the big one to really air our grievances. And they were well thought out, well worded critiques that provided the devs exactly with what the community was saying and what they were thinking. And we saw a little bit more get done that way. But now that it's consistent harassment and it's deconstructive criticism at this time, I think it needs to everyone really needs to rein it in and think about what they're saying. And if you are unhappy with the change, voice it in a way that shows why you're unhappy with it, not just yelling it to the high heavens.
Yeah, I think essentially yelling it to the high heavens, and this is where, like, I had like Crojack on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about just banning people, right? There's like, you don't like a word, you don't like whatever, just silence them. And my personal reservation is weird on this, right? Because, you know, like as a content creator, you can obviously see like the best and worst of humanity, and I often view social media, especially YouTube, just in general, as an emotional engine. It's not about making a rational argument. It's about making the most emotional argument, whether that's positive or negative. And that's where I think the incentive model is actually driving people into this mindset of where they just are yelling because they don't feel heard. They feel one way or the other. And so it all, in my mind, comes down to feelings where they feel like maybe content creators are the problem. I don't know if you've ever seen that expression. You know, blessed. I get blessed with that idea all the time.
Streamers are always the problem. Whenever we were playing New World, right? Like we were all streaming it. It was me, Goth, Char, Lupo, like that whole crew, and people were mad because we were streamers on their server, and everything that was wrong was our fault.
Yeah. Well, and there was even an app for New World that was tracking where the streamers were, so that if you wanted to avoid that mindset, then you could avoid the streamers in that regards. And I was like, that's a great tool. Pay attention, know where you want to go. And you recently also re-updated to New World. I haven't seen you streaming it yet, but are you excited about that game's future and whatnot?
Yeah, I've been kind of dinking around, not gonna lie. Like, haven't been putting a ton of time into it, but whenever I'm up early and I'm not going in the office, I'll log in and I'll play with Goth and run some dungeons and get some gyps and morbs and work on my gear score. And like right now, I haven't looked into the expansion as much as I should, but right now, before the expansion, it still does feel like a lot of the same. Sure, making the invisible watermark now visible as a number, I think is a brilliant change because now I have numbers to work towards.
Yeah.
And as a Destiny player, I love working towards numbers. But I'm excited to see what else is going to change with New World, because I think the core game is fun. I love the combat. I love the way that the game plays. I love the gathering, the crafting, the way that trade is done. I love the storage system. As wild as that is, I like having a bank in every freaking city. So like I think the core of New World is fantastic, and I really, really, really do want to see it continue to succeed and grow, because it has been growing over the past couple months as we prepare for the new expansion to come out, or DLC, whatever they're calling it.
Well, that's the thing. Like within the world, when people use expansion and DLC, like in my mind, it's like it's an MMO. It's just like, you know, I don't call a Final Fantasy 14 patch, DLC or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's the update. It's the fall update, the big one. There's still many things, and they're apparently preparing the roadmap, which I think is going to be important. Do you think? Well, we won't spend too much time on New World because I can talk about that game all day. Because like, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, but just kind of put this bug in your ear. One of the things I've often lamented about New World when it was 18 months out, I thought New World would get down to 5,000 concurrent. That's where I thought it was going, no matter what. Like, this is before the game launched. I was like, it's going to struggle because it has no nostalgia. It has no, it's not a dev that you trust. It's not a Square Enix. It's not a Bungie. It's not any of these things. Nobody can sit back and realistically lean on a history here, either game history and IP history or a dev history, right? So I was like, it's going to struggle no matter what. The question is how does it invite people back in? And so ultimately what we're seeing here just feels very, as I look at MMOs. But for me, I was like, why do I love this game so much? Why did it hook me so much? Because it has no nostalgia. It's not a Final Fantasy. Like, Final Fantasy taught me how to read. Like, I was so dyslexic. I needed something to motivate me to continue to try and overcome that as just a skill, that I had to work through. And for me, what it is like I grew up in East Texas, so that's Louisiana, Nacogdoches. Like if anybody knows that area, tall trees. Yeah, you're a Texas boy. I always like to tweet you any kind of Texas meme that I can come up with whenever I see you tweet. But no, it's like, so that's my home. That's my youth. I remember being in and we had, my parents had a Tempo, and I remember being in the back seat with all the trees and the moon, right? And all of a sudden, that's when I was like, oh, that's why I'm hooked to this game. It reminds me of my childhood, like growing up, like I was running through the woods in New World. It's so immersive. Like there's these pine trees, gorgeous, and then behind them is this giant moon that's just like glowing, and the lights just like going through. And I was like, okay, this is my youth. This is me running around this made up imaginary world in my backyard fighting monsters. And I was like, that's what it was for me that really kind of hooked me in the long run.
I think what's great about New World and the reason that they can continue to get people back is they have a fantastic influencer marketing team. It was done a very good job of keeping content creators invested. And when you have some of these bigger names coming back, it's not the end all be all, right? But
not the all be all, but
yeah. But when like Gothalion comes back, that's a couple hundred people that are probably re-downloading the game to go play it again.
Yeah.
And you multiply that by X amount, you're getting a sizable population come back. And then they tell their friends, and then they tell their friends, and they tell their friends, and it grows. And then people who weren't connected to a content creator, maybe keeping up with their comms, which has been phenomenal. Their social media channels are very good. Their dev streams have been fantastic. Like they have done a fantastic job on the comms and influencer side of things. That could almost be a case study on how to come back and how to keep people in the loop and keep people interested in the game and any potential updates that are coming.
How much of that is modeled off of Final Fantasy 14 and what they've done?
I mean, can you say it is, right? Because I mean, how much of Final Fantasy 14's is modeled off of all the previous devs that had been doing dev streams and all that, right? I think it's an ever-growing thing that devs are seeing what other devs are doing that are working and what isn't working and learning from that and moving forward, right? Like there are things that I did 6 years ago in my career that I would never think of doing again because it didn't work, right? Like, and there are things that I've learned by being a creator myself, working with creators for, 7 years now, and really listening to the pain points that have helped evolve to what I do now whenever it comes to influencer marketing. So I think Final Fantasy has done a great job of kind of setting the tone of communications, but at the same time, so has Bungie.
That's true.
Bungie has always done Vidocs and things like that have really put the information out there into the
Bungie's got the TWAB, like every Thursday, you're getting some form of communication. And I think it's like, but like my point from my experience is that when you look at Yoshi P coming on the scene with the letter on the January 1st, back when he first took over, having that evolve is obviously an evolution process. Like I think it's a key critical component, like you said, with Destiny, with New World, communication. Don't let people just be in the dark about what you're doing. I don't know if you've ever followed Guild Wars 2, but the joke we end up going off with is like every time I play Guild Wars, I'm like, why did I stop playing this game? It's amazing. But then you never really hear anything about it. And they've slowly started to then start to adopt some of these things like Destiny, Bungie with the Twitch drops, right? Like they have Twitch integration, and New World has Twitch integration. And it's like how much of a powerhouse, right back to even what we were talking about the pre-show, like is Twitch in terms of our day-to-day, and is that also then causing some of this friction within maybe I hesitate to say older gamers, but it does in my mind. Like I wish I had more data to I kind of lean into that. Like back in my day, we didn't have streamers getting to play 7,000 hours in a week and then complain there's no content. I don't know how much of that's connected, but I think you're absolutely right that communication is a absolute pillar of it. Yoshi P recently commented that he's like, the reason why he advertises isn't to bring in new players, it's to keep the existing ones. That you feel good seeing these advertisements. You feel good when you see a big streamer streaming the game you like, or, oh man, I haven't seen that game in a long time. I thought it was dead. What's going on with it? Oh, turns out they kept the servers online and they kept making content. The Bungie, let's get this back on Destiny, because I'm kind of curious about like your thoughts about Dragonflight. Do we want to kind of pivot before we go back to Destiny?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no plans on ever going back to retail. I played Shadowlands whenever it came out, and I think I played it for about a month. I got to max level and I was done. It doesn't have the flair for me anymore. Now Wrath Classic, it's wild. I tried Classic whenever it first came out. Cool. I tried Burning Crusade whenever it first came out, and Burning Crusade has long been my favorite expansion for WoW based on the story. But I guess I looked at Burning Crusade through rose-tinted glasses, and I looked at it and I played it and I was like, this is not what I remember. But now that I've been playing Wrath for about a week now, like I can firmly say that this is exactly how I remember Wrath, exactly how I remember it playing. There are no rose-tinted glasses with it this time. So you can probably catch me in Wrath anytime I'm going to play WoW. I'm not a big Cata fan, so I'm just going to sit in my little section and kill Arthas for the next 8 years.
Well, it's awesome that you have that ability. Like that's in terms of preservation is really good. But let's get back to Destiny, because they announced a couple of key features that I've long been waiting for. Loadouts, like obviously you could use, dim, and there's third-party add-on tools that basically allowed you to do these things. But for me, I don't know what it is, and maybe it's just this aversion to like all these third-party tools. Like I don't care. Like if it's not in the game, I'm generally not going to go above and beyond and try and do these additional things. But yes, I'm happy that it's there. But the fact is they're adding in loadouts, they're adding in kind of a group finder, which is essentially, I think, going to help out a lot, maybe, or you'll probably see a lot more drama kind of tick up, on the social medias because of group finders, because you're going to find people who are like, no, you can't come. You don't have these requirements.
You don't have Yellerhorn. D1
exactly.
Problems all over again.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have this build, this loadout. What are you most excited about with Lightfall, being that is the closest piece of content that we have outside of the current, I have not touched the season. I have no idea why. Like I was like, Plunder, this sounds great. I logged in once, did the main quest, and I was like, all right, I don't know why that is. That's always been my weirdness with Destiny. Like I dip in and I come in hard, play, and then it's like, all right, I'll see y'all in 6 months, but anyway, so it's like I'm hoping that the next season is something that I just dive back into. But what are you looking forward to, whether the next season or with Lightfall? What do you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, what you're talking about with Plunder, I've done it plenty of times. Like Season of Opulence, I hopped in, I played for I think a week, and then I bounced and played other games for the rest of the season. Like I don't have anything from Season of Opulence. I think I ran Menagerie 12 times. So like I get it, right? I mean, first and foremost, as a hunter, I'm excited to be Spider-Man with Strand. We're flying around like a maniac across Neptune, right? Neptune.
Yeah, in the future city, right? Like it's one that it's hidden itself away.
Yeah. So I'm stoked to be doing that because Strand looks great. I love that we're incorporating the darkness into the Guardian's powers. I think this is a really cool step forward for Destiny. And like builds upon what we already have with Stasis, which is still annoying in PvP. I'm just gonna say it right now. I'm really tired of getting frozen in trials every weekend. But I going out and exploring new locale has always been a fun thing for me whenever it comes to Destiny. I remember the first time I loaded into the Cosmodrome in Destiny 1, I was overtaken with how it looked. And, we're talking about Earth that has fallen apart. And now, instead of going to this war-torn area, we're going to a city that has been protected from the darkness, right? Has been completely shielded from everything out there. And we're being introduced to new people. We're going to be introduced to new Cabal. And we get new enemies to come along with it. And I think that's what I'm most excited for, is that we're finally stepping away from this world torn asunder and really stepping into a place that survived it all. And it's something we've not seen before. And I really I commend Bungie for that, because Throne World was great, but it's the Throne World, right? The Moon was great, but it's torn apart, right? The Hellmouth is there. So I'm really excited to see what Bungie has up their sleeve with their story, especially because Witch Queen felt like a return to form for story with me.
Dude, so good. In fact, that's one of the things that, if they were ever to go back and fix earlier expansions, like doing that with the legendary campaign and the normal. It's so easy because one of the problems I always run into, especially as a creator and as I try to make guides and help people out, it's like, all right, here's how you follow the main quest. And sometimes it always kind of felt like you'd be following the quest and then it's like you'd be like, hey, wait, what happened? Like, what's the next mission? And then, oh, I got to go do bounties. And like, there's all these weird things that all of a sudden you were like, I ran into that in Shadowkeep. I thought I had to go to this one quest. And I was like, I don't have a machine gun. I need to get machine gun kills just to go to the story. And then it turns out like I misread it. Like my dyslexia kicks my ass all the time because I misread things. And so I ended up wasting a lot of time doing these like quests, trying to get this machine gun, which I didn't have because they recently just brought those back when the Shadowkeep came out. And then I was like, oh, I need to do that. And then now I can go do the main quest. But Witch Queen legitimately just put it on a platter and it made it so connected that I was like, this is the be all end all. Like, this is so well done that's why I struggle. Cause I'm like, do you recommend a player returning or a new player? Start with Witch Queen. It clearly is the best way of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then maybe go struggle with the other ones, but I don't know. What do you recommend? Start with Witch Queen or?
Yeah, I mean, hop right in and hop in where you can. I think Destiny's probably in the best place it's been in a while whenever it comes to new players tuning in and really, really hopping into the game. You're not wrong though. Destiny or Witch Queen is a fantastic new light experience because it gives you a list of what you need to do and how to do it. I'm pretty sure there's a video of me somewhere on my Witch Queen launch stream of me yelling at all the stupid tooltips that were popping up because they were telling you how to do everything, regardless if you were new or a returning player. I'm like, I am playing this on Legendary. What part of you thinks that I am new here? But I think that's also a cool part about it. Like, if you really want to test yourself and grow as a solo player, Witch Queen Legendary is a good place to start. Playing through that solo was a trying experience, and I have years of experience in that game, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. But Witch Queen's a great place to start. I do not recommend starting with the New Light experience. It is not great. It does explain a little bit of the story, but not all of it, and you get some of the stuff from Destiny 1. But I would definitely say hop into Witch Queen. Give it a go. Witch Queen is, I hope, indicative of what we're going to get in Destiny moving forward. Not saying Forsaken or Shadowkeep are bad. In fact, I like Shadowkeep Forsaken, even though we can't play anymore, it's probably still my favorite story because Cade was my favorite character. Not just because of his wit and all that jazz, because of how well written he was and how laissez-faire he was, right? So I really, really enjoyed Forsaken, but Witch Queen kind of took the story of Forsaken and took it to another level. So yeah, if you're new, just grab Witch Queen and go play. I'm pretty sure you can get it for free on Epic Game Store right now still.
Yeah, most likely. That was so much fun. And that's where it's like, yep, good. And then the seasonal model, man, like the one thing I wish they would do is in a way adopt what Halo did, essentially where you can keep your season pass, even though Halo is in serious need of a lot of work. But the aspect of like, if I could, I don't know, it's that weird artificial FOMO that it just, I dip out. Like it really just drives me out of the season because I just like, I don't need this in my life, even though I'm sure if I committed, I can knock out a season pretty quickly in terms of the battle pass. But it's like, oh, if I could go back and literally equip any of the past seasons, I think I would have a hard time logging out of Destiny because then it gives me that, like, I can set my own time, my own schedule. And that's one of the things, like, you know, in a way, bringing this back to New World, like people are like, oh, do you do the wars? It's like, I don't go talk to my wife and be like, sorry, babe, can't help put the kids to bed tonight. There's a war. Yeah, I got to go play war with the guys. Like a schedule. Like, no. It does not work for my life. Now, when the kids go off to college, yeah, by all means, probably, like, you know, that's what I'm going to do. I'll be one of those, like, oh, my beard will no longer be red. It'll probably be gray. But then it's like, yeah, kids are in school, man. Like, we're good. Let's keep going.
Dude, you know how many plans I canceled during New World's launch to be around for wars? Like, I would cancel meetings. I would cancel trivia night. I was like, sorry, I can't hang out with you. I have to fight a fictional war. All right.
Yeah, we're going to war.
I cannot be bothered.
The when you look at the offering of Destiny, and when you look at kind of Strand, do you actually think that we'll see like a sixth subclass with the final shape rounding it out to where you have kind of like 3 light, 3 dark powers? What do you think?
I would think so. Bungie lives in the number 3, right? So it would make sense that we have 3 and 3. And I hope so. I don't know what else we could do with darkness. Maybe we get some type of poison architecture in there. Because we already have it with Osteo and Thorn. So maybe Weapons of Sorrow kind of play into it. That's what I would like to see. Like, give me a reason to wear my necrotic grips with a super that causes poison damage while wearing a thorn, and I'm gonna have the time of my life on my warlock. It'll be great.
So for that then, when it comes down to, you got Lightfall, you got Final Shape, like as a content creator, like what is your overall like plan? Stream story, you like do community events, PvE stuff, or like do you see like an inroad into that, being that when we look at content creators overall, like there is kind of an established marker. Like I don't put a lot of time into my Destiny content because I'm stepping in against people who have, like, Dado has got 1 million, it's like there's already kind of an established audience. Would you invest more time into being a content creator around this one specific game, or is it something where you would look at whatever Bungie's working on with Mador, if that's Destiny 3, or like what do you think about, what's your strategy for content?
Probably exactly what I did for Witch Queen. So leading up to Witch Queen, I started putting out more Destiny content. Because I was playing Shadowbringers in 14 because I wanted to experience that story. I play 14 for the story. I'm one of them dirty casuals. I'm sorry. I just
Most people do.
Story.
That's when it comes down to the numbers, man. Like 90, probably 5% of the community plays it for the story and dips.
I did extreme trials with Lightfall, and I was like, cool, experienced them. I'm done. I don't need traditional MMO rating in my life anymore.
Yeah.
So I started putting out like little snippets of content for Destiny here and there. And I was here on YouTube whenever all this was happening. I only just switched back to Twitch in May for St. Jude Play Live because where my audience lived, and I was able to raise more money that way. There were plans to come back to YouTube, but I don't put enough effort into my content right now.
Would there be a value in you just saying F it to the Twitch overlords on that deal and just stream into Twitch and to YouTube and just going with it?
I did that this time last year, and it cut my audience in half on both platforms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it did not work. So I think the plan is coming up to Lightfall. I really want to start kind of expanding my content. I have the ability and the time to produce recorded content, especially shorts and TikTok. So I want to start trying to do that. A lot of my buds like to come to me for hunter builds. So I have that knowledge on build crafting. I have the knowledge and the skill set to go through solo end game content on hard difficulties. It's just a matter of actually sitting down and not being as ADHD as I am and actually editing and doing that. So I do plan on kind of doing the same thing, drip feed content, making a return to YouTube in terms of uploaded content and streaming on Twitch, and maybe working on TikTok. I have 2 videos on TikTok. One is us dancing in New World, and the second was during the freeze this year. I had a very beautiful moment where I was able to slap out a sheet of ice off my window. Because everyone breaking a sheet of ice is popular on TikTok. I don't know why.
I don't get TikTok. I'm not gonna lie. Like
I'm too old to get it.
My brother he does so well, and he's like, and I'm like, all right, man. Like I post stuff, but I'm like, yeah. There's sometimes things do really well, and I don't know why.
So yeah, I just I'll probably drip feed mainly back into YouTube. I saw so much growth in a 4 to 6 month period when I wasn't even trying, that I was like, what if I put in half the effort I could? What would happen? So I'm gonna drip feed and get people interested in Lightfall as we get closer to it, and that'll probably Lightfall's coming out in February, so I'll probably start producing content around Destiny on YouTube in around December. Give it a good 3 months build up. And then that way, whenever I go on 12-day vacations like I just did, I will still be able to upload content while I'm out and still be able to grow because, as everyone says, you grow when you're offline, not while you're streaming.
Yeah. And that 100% agreed. Like that's one of the things that I see a lot of people, and they eventually burn out. Like I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but people are like, hey, get the question like, how do you get so many subscribers? How do you do this? And it's like, I upload videos, and they're like, oh, but I just want to go live. And I'm like, okay, like you can do that. But, and this is where it gets weird. I don't know if you ever see this question, because I always go like, well, like, what are your goals? And they're like, oh, I just want to have fun. And I'm like, deep down, I'm like, you probably want to grow. Like, it's like, you probably want not just to have fun, but you would like to have people that you're hanging out with and talking. And in order to do that, like, it's not about hitting go live. And as much as like people think it is, because like they, like a lot of the people we know, like, I mean, you know, the team and the people that you work with content creators, large and small, Goth, you know, for example, but a lot of them also grew with the platform. As people discovered live streaming, they found people who were live, and they grew. And now essentially you're kind of competing against those people. Live stream is a competitive space, but videos actually I feel are more collaborative, because if you make a video, it could recommend one of my videos, and my videos could recommend one of your videos, and then we get together on a podcast. Oh my God, you know,
well, look at how that works.
And imagine that. And then, you know, people are like, oh, this is interesting. And so, yeah, Destiny in and of itself is like, I think it's rife for content. I think it's essentially, even like when I look at it and it's the volume of people that it attracts, it's such a massive game. Like, I don't think we can really truly quantify it. I think a couple years ago, they're like, we've got 19 million Guardians or 119 million. It was some ridiculous number.
Silly.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's massive. And there are people who are actively interested in loadouts and things like that. There's always lots of questions people have, and the game's always evolving. So it gives you opportunity to always kind of like answer those questions and, again, grow offline. Because like you said, like the thing, even in the pre-show, you're investing in your social life, you're investing in Nell, like who is like, yeah. And being live all the time, I don't think is the future of content.
No,
you know,
it's not. And it's like, after this podcast, I'm going to trivia with my lady friend. We're going to trivia and we're going to have wings and we're going to have beer. And what's funny is a year ago, I wouldn't have taken off on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Because Wednesday, Thursdays were set days. We're recording this live on your YouTube channel. I see Lightfall and Neptune, who are two of my mods in your chat, like they can attest to it. I was set to a schedule and I did not stray from it. Nowadays, it's like, I'll be live on Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's why I want to start doing more YouTube content as we get closer to it, because I'm be like, hey guys, I'm not going to stream tonight, but guess what? There's a new video on YouTube. So if you still want to see me act like an idiot on the internet, you can do so for the next 10 minutes of your life. Twitch isn't Twitch from 7 years ago. It's not the bleed purple small knit community that it was, right? Now it's Twitch stabbing you in the back and taking half your money. And everyone's competing against everyone. And I know there's content creators that will say it's not a competition, we're all in this together.
That feels like such bullshit. like I'm just gonna call it, like, it's the same thing where it's like I see content creators tweet this out, and I don't know, like I try to always like give people the benefit of the doubt, but there's a part of me that's like, I guess a dad like just rolls eyes like, y'all said you'd watch me forever any game that I play, and no one shows up for whatever. It's like, the reality is someone hits subscribe or follow or whatever the term is, whatever platform you're on, because they're interested in you and that game. And I would bet, I'd be curious this year, what would be your percentage? Somebody's following Nell, what percentage for the game and what percentage for you?
I'm 99% for the game. Guarantee it. Because if I stream anything other than Destiny, my viewership tanks. Not saying anything bad about people who watch me, because I love the little like super tight knit community that we have. I'm not a big streamer. I never set out to be. I set out to create a platform for fundraising for charity. Yeah. That was the only reason I wanted to do it. I mean, and to get a job in games, but we have achieved that. Now I'm streaming.
Job in games, check. Raising money for charity. Like, we just did a St. Jude's thing for New World, the fishing tournament, and we raised almost $2,500 for St. Jude's this year. And that was my first foray into it. I tell you, I was very nervous because I was like, I need a platform that takes the money. I don't want to receive it. I don't want to be like, I just want to make sure that it's all above board and we don't end up running down like, oh, that ginger guy, like he was doing this thing and whatever. It's like, but we ended up raising like a ton of money and we're going to do that again. It ended up being really fun. The fact that we were able to put out some good in the world, and for that, like that charity as well. And I was like, oh yeah. But in my mind, someone's like, do that again. I was like, well, next year during the summer medley fair, we'll have our yearly fishing tournament and go from there. Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, so that's what I did, like I do have a 1% that comes around for me, right? Like I have people who have zero interest in Destiny that came around whenever I was playing HOTS or came around when I was playing ESO or came around whenever I was playing 14 a lot, that have just stuck around. Now what's great is some of them have actually tried out Destiny and ended up loving it.
Yeah.
Look at me. Mom, I'm an influencer. But there are people who have no interest in trying these games out, want to keep playing Final Fantasy 14, want to keep playing ESO. But my banter with my friends while I'm raiding in Destiny apparently is pretty funny. I'm like, apparently talking about fart and poops is hilarious. I'm still 12 years old.
Really big with the kids too.
Yeah.
Fart and poop jokes, man. They go a long way. Yeah, that's the joke we have about Destiny is like, have you ever shot a gun in Destiny? Like it just feels so good. Like it that's how it hooks you. It doesn't matter. It's like I see so many people burn out of Destiny and then they're all like, this game sucks. I've got 10,000 hours in it this year and I hate it. It's like clearly you just need to take a step back, because as soon as you take a break and you come back after however long and you start firing those guns, you're hooked right away. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's why Sony spent so much money on them.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Bungie's always been known for. Like, let's go look at Halo 1, 2, 3, and ODST. And Reach. Like the gunplay that Bungie has always put out has always been top notch, right? Yeah. Like the gunplay in Halo 1 revolutionized first person shooters.
Yeah, absolutely it did. Absolutely. Now, as we start to wind down the show, like, is there a content creator that you're following that you don't feel like has like enough recognition? Is there like a kind of a big sleeping giant that for somebody you follow that you think is just doing outstanding work or putting out anything interesting that you would like to shout out before we let you shout yourself out?
100%. I got the perfect person for this. His name's Big Ants Gaming 757 on Twitch.
Okay.
Not only is he my oldest friend in the world, he is probably the funniest person I know. He's also he plays a ton of Destiny. He's a PvP main. All right, I know, but it's hilarious because we get him into raids and he's a part of our day one raid team. And he's just freaking out. Like he sent me a gif of no whenever I said we were going into Grandmasters. But he'll get into it. He's hilarious. He's great. He's great at build crafting. He's great at testing weapons. He does a lot of short form content testing damage fall off and how weapons are going to work in PvP. On top of that, he is hilarious. He's honestly the funniest person I know.
All right, guys, be sure to check out Big Ants. I'll see if I can't get his link added to the description for that, because that's something I was like, yeah. One of the things that I feel is usually the best way to kind of introduce people to new people is just that recommendation alone, outside of like, creating YouTube videos that are searchable, etc. Yeah. Now, what are you, what's your content creation plan outside the fact that you're going to get some beers and wings tonight with a lady friend?
Well, most weeks it's Thursdays at 6 p.m. Central. That gives me time to get off work and relax.
Decompress.
I work from home, so I sit in this chair for all of work, and I like to get up and go to the couch and watch a TV show, and then come back to the exact same spot, change the color of my light, kind of make it feel different, and play Destiny. A lot of times I'll do Friday night streams as well. So I'll just say it. I'm sponsored by a beer company, so most Friday nights we do Drink City, where it's me and some buds get a little toasty.
Your sponsorship with Voodoo is also like one of the reasons why I always recognize and think about you. Anytime I'm in a grocery store, we were actually down in Galveston, and I was at the grocery store picking up beer. I was like, "Hey, Voodoo Ranger, all right, I'll pick some up." So it works. You should let them know. Like even just the fact that I see sponsored by Voodoo, I was like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah. So we'll get a little toasty and do like hardcore in-game content. So now that GMs are out, we'll start doing GMs while we're lit. And that's most Fridays. Depends on if the lady friend wants to hang out or not, or if friends want to hang out, right? And do like to go out. And so yeah, Thursdays, Fridays, normal times that I stream, sometimes Mondays. But then if anyone here is into football, American football, the NFL, I do host an NFL focused podcast every Tuesday called The Regular Season, which is pretty cool.
All right. Well, keep it up, man. And for those of you who have been joining us live, thanks so much. Thanks for the 20 likes. This podcast also goes out on MP3. Just search Epic Loot Radio. We're everywhere. We're like on Samsung fridges now and things like that. So
wait, hold on.
Okay.
You can someone can listen to my voice on a refrigerator.
Yes.
I love technology.
We could always be like, let's see what would be the command. I'm drawing a blank. Let's see here. Alexa, subscribe to Epic Loot Radio. I don't know if that's going to work at all. That's one of the things I like to do when I do my stand-up. It's like see how many people's got the phones listening. So it's like remind everybody to go subscribe to Ginger Prime and all that good, wonderful stuff.
Make sure to tell your fridge to subscribe to the podcast chat.
Yes, absolutely. That'll be wonderful. Now we'll have a little pre-show after we run it because I can hear knocking on the door already. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to go check out NelStar and all his content. His links are in the description. If you're listening to this as an MP3 audio, be sure to leave the podcast a review. We really appreciate any and all support. Again, thanks everybody for hanging out here live with us. We'll be back here next week for even more podcast fun. But until then, take care. I'm a freaking pro, man. I can get that thing timed perfectly. Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
Man, dude, what a great show, man. Thanks so much for jumping in. We've been talking about, I saw that tweet. I was like, oh, hell yeah. Let's talk Destiny. It's been too long since we've been able to collab. Hey, what's up, sweetheart?
I very much appreciate it, my dude. Like,
hey,
I mean, Destiny's my life outside of work. So like, even when I'm not streaming, I'm playing it. So
yeah.
One of those things.
Well, I'm getting, the call. It's time to go. It's time to go chase kids around. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and broadcast. It's going to spin itself silly. So I'm